In this video we're going to be discussing the emergency controls on ladder 5. Now the industry standard for TDOs is very basic. Mainly we want to know that you know where the emergency controls are and you know how to operate them. But we're also going to get a little bit more in depth in this video because the systems in ladder 5 are pretty complex. We want to have a little deeper understanding as TDOs here at PFA. One thing that you need to understand anytime you're operating an aerial apparatus is whether your controls are direct hydraulic or electric over hydraulic. In the case of ladder 5, the outrigger and jack controls are electric over hydraulic. The pedestal controls on ladder 5 are direct hydraulic. Alright, now we're going to talk a little bit about short jack operations. Now in the unlikely event that you would need to rotate the aerial over a short jack side, say for example you've deployed your outriggers but couldn't reach full deployment because you maybe missed your positioning by just a couple inches. You determine that you need to make an immediate move towards that building with your aerial, but you don't have time to reposition. You also understand that maybe your aerial is up high enough that you're not going to be putting a large load on those outriggers and you're only maybe an inch short. System's functioning as it should. It's not letting you rotate the aerial, but you want to go ahead and override that. The system up here is relatively simple. You have an override switch, outrigger short set. You'll have to depress the button, hold the button until you rotate past 5 degrees, which is where the aerial would normally stop and not allow you to go over the short jack side. Once you've extended beyond that, you'll go ahead and be able to release that override switch and position the aerial as you need. Continuing with short jack operations, in the event that you have an electrical failure and can no longer use the override switch on the pedestal, there are direct hydraulic overrides behind the pedestal on ladder 5. It makes the operation a two-person operation. You now have one person that will operate the pedestal and the controls at the pedestal, and one person that will control the direct overrides on the back of the pedestal. One thing that's important to understand on these direct override controls for operating to a short jack side is that you actually push the knobs in. You don't pull them out, you actually push them in. As we discussed earlier, the controls for the outriggers and jacks on ladder 5 are electric over hydraulic. In the event that you have a partial or full electrical failure, you can still operate the outrigger controls with the direct hydraulic valves that are located behind the ladder where you access the turntable on ladder 5. The controls for the front jacks that are direct hydraulic are located in the driver's side number 1 compartment behind the cones. All aerial apparatus have some form of what they call an interlock, which is a safety device. The interlock basically determines whether the outriggers are fully deployed and also whether they are fully pressurized. In the event that they're not fully deployed or not fully pressurized, that's going to prevent the aerial from operating. Now, since they are electric over hydraulic in the case of ladder 5, we do have to have a way to override that if we have a partial electrical failure. In this case, that's located in the very back compartment on the officer's side. There's both a knob for the aerial operation and the outriggers. In the event that you have an electrical failure that's caused one of the interlock switches to not operate properly, you'll push that aerial interlock override solenoid in and it will allow you to operate the aerial. In the event that you have an outrigger problem where your electrical panel on the rear is not allowing you to operate the outriggers and jacks, you'll push the outrigger and jack override, which is on the right. All aerial devices will have some form of emergency power unit in the event that the main hydraulic system fails. In this case, the ladder has a EPU that's electrically operated. It's controlled by a switch both here on the rear outrigger control and a switch on the aerial pedestal. It's a small electric motor. It's very important that if you do have to use the EPU, that you shut down the main aerial PTO. They're both different systems in the fact that the EPU is a high pressure, low volume system, whereas the PTO is a high volume, low pressure system. So in the event that something were to come back online and you haven't disabled the aerial PTO, you could overpressure and completely disable your EPU. EPU operation is limited to 30 seconds every 3 minutes. In conclusion, all aerial apparatus have complex systems, and there's a myriad of failures that can occur, both partial hydraulic failures, full hydraulic failures, partial electrical failures, full electrical failures. That's just very important to understand your rig, understand where the emergency controls are, and most importantly, get out and train for a variety of situations. In this situation, we're hoping that you'll get out to ladder 5 and try both partial electrical and hydraulic failures, and get your hands on these systems and use them.